there is probably over 10,000 vacant houses in that area that the city freaking owns, that I have tried to buy from Land Bank, and they could solve the problem on their own with their own dime without having to go into our pocketbook. But they choose not to. They'd rather pass a law that negatively affects the citizens that put them into office. And I'm really upset about it. And I want to get into some more details. So I have a few questions for you. So in your opinion, can there be a middle ground where there's an incentive for landlords to accept these vouchers like Johnson County has done?
And so that's the first thing that popped into my mind when I saw the punitive nature of this, to try to force me to participate in a government program against my will. Really?
Right.
You're going to make me sign a contract with
Sounds
the federal
familiar.
government? Right.
We just got through that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so for them to try to think they were going to do that, it's like, okay, so my mind has to think, okay, how can we respond best to this? And we had just this summer met with the Johnson County, the housing authority there, and then they have a housing coordinator on staff that's a new position because Johnson County is a little more serious about it than Kansas City is. And so we met with them this summer, and we learned about their landlord incentive program. And that program, it was great. It was so great that I'm thinking, okay, maybe the next properties we buy need to be in Johnson County because they are supportive of ideas that work. So what they did is they did a survey of the housing providers in Johnson County and said, why don't you accept the vouchers? What would it take for you to accept the vouchers?
Right.
And so they actually did the work by asking.
Right.
And they came up with a landlord incentive program where it gives you a 2-month bonus, so 2 months free rent for participating.
Right.
And one of the other concerns that people have about about voucher holders, based on past experience, is that many of them leave damage behind that we're not covered for. And so that is their experience. It's not a stereotype. It's something that's happened.
Yeah.
And so Johnson County, in their program, they put a damage mitigation fund in place. And so the two big things that would...
So they're in it with you.
Absolutely.
Versus... it's all on you, Stacey. Suck it up. We're passing laws. We don't care.
Right, and we are going to program to what is important for you. If it convinces you to do it, we're going to do it. We're going to incentivize you.
Well, the way that you're describing, that helps both people. It helps the landlord and it helps the tenant. This way, it's like the fox guarding the hen house. It's like, let's go and tell all the employees who work for their bosses that they're going to tell the bosses what they're willing to do. Because that's exactly what this is. Let's go tell the prisoners in the prison that they're now in charge of the guards.
Right.
Like, because, I mean, I'm going to make that, I mean, there's no, if you're renting, you're making a contractual obligation with a landlord to rent their property.
That's right.
And you're going into it like willing, ready, and able. So, okay.
And so the benefit then is that 83 families who otherwise would not have had a home now have a home. They're voucher holders in Johnson County, and 24 housing providers have decided to participate in the program. And so they've hooked them probably for a while for the, when the next vacancies come up. But those families now have housing by choice. And so, and you have to have a heart, because my husband and I, we've rented, we accept vouchers when we want to, because we choose to.
It's just the housing authority of Kansas City is too hard to pass.
It's just
it's their nightmare. I had to put dirt on paint chips out there, and I was like, this is a joke. We're done.
Right.
We have 100 properties I have in Mississippi. 90% of them are Section 8. I was doing the same plan out here. You know why they're not? We couldn't pass.
That's right.
It was harder to pass a Section 8 inspection in Kansas City than it was to get an FHA loan in Kansas City. I've never seen, and they take their jobs way too seriously. Like, this is a house. Like, okay, is it safe? Yes. What makes it not safe? It doesn't make it unsafe that every plug does not work, okay?
Right.
If you go in most people's house that they own, you could go check out my house. I'm sure it's brand new. I'm sure there's a plug that doesn't work. Right. But I can't get a voucher on there if I'm a tenant. It's ridiculous.
Or if you're missing a pull string for a light fixture, that could fail it. I mean, just silly things.
The stupidest crap in the world. It's the most obscene Section 8 I've ever dealt with in any city ever.
Right, and so we have a relationship as our KC Regional Housing Alliance with Ed Lowndes, who testified that day as well. And so one of the things that we did pre-COVID, COVID changed everything, and everything got turned upside down, is we met with them. We said, okay, here's what it would take. We created a list. Here's what it would take for us to be happy working with the Housing Authority, and that we can get some of our peers to jump on board and participate as well. Answer the phone on, quickly, return your emails, and get the consistent list of, what are you going to be looking for in the inspection, that every single inspector, all of those things, we created a list and shared that with him, and we were working towards that. He had it switch up in his...
That's Ed?
And his staff.
Okay.
And he's a great guy, great to work with, but he's kind of running a big old monstrosity.
Yeah.
And then we had some problems with him. So he is willing to sit down with us. And one thing that he said that I thought was great in light of all of this is he said it's about relationships. So the question is, will it work to force us? He's saying, no, it's more about relationships and building a relationship with the housing providers instead of trying to force us to participate.
What's wrong with Jackson County? Why are they doing this?
Jackson County has different issues too with the property tax assessment. So Jackson County has a problem, the city of Kansas City has a problem.
Yeah.
So imagine being in this cesspool of problems with ineffective elected leaders. And so we have a problem all the way around.
Right.
But our voices have to come through in some way. We can't just give up.